Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis,
Hello.
who's throwing out gang signs while we're doing this. This is the longest title of any episode we've ever done because I couldn't think of a way to condense it. And this is who or what did we think should have been more successful in the 80s? It might be a person, a band, could be a video game, anything we could think of. And it could even have been successful, but we think it should have been more successful. All right. Not complicated at all. But we thought we'd give this one a shot and see who we thought should have had more success in the 80s. And Lou, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and start this bad boy off.
Excellent. All right. Well, I had a hard
I
time
just
with
said I'm
this one.
going to start this off and you're taking it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked me if I could start it off.
No, I'm going to go ahead and start this
All right.
off.
Go ahead and start this off, John.
All right. So, God, let me go with my first pick. I'm actually going to go with an actress. And in 1984, she made her debut in a movie called Blame It on Rio. And we're talking, of course, Michelle Johnson.
Of course.
God, I love this woman. And she, I was looking at her history, and I think in the 80s, the only thing I remember is she did Gung Ho, that Michael Keaton movie. She didn't have a very big part, and she did a horror film called Waxwork. Didn't really have the career you would have thought she would have had based upon her debut. Blame It on Rio was actually her first movie. And I got to tell you, I'm not saying that she was the best actress in the world, but a lot of, movie stars just have that it factor, that indescribable thing that makes you drawn to them. And she had it in spades, in my opinion. And I was surprised that she never really went on to greater success. So I know you've seen Blame It on Rio, right, Lou?
Yeah, I have. I remember when I saw it was on TV. It was on Channel 2, as a matter of fact. And at the time, Channel 2 didn't really edit their movies very much. There was nudity. Yeah, they would let nudity slip in there all the time. And so
They're watching them more.
the first thing that drew me to the movie was that it was filmed in Brazil and they speak Portuguese in Brazil. So I was just like, oh, wow, check this out. They're actually speaking some Portuguese in here. And of course I watched the movie and then the nudity popped in. And of course that was a nice little added bonus there. But yeah, it was a good flick. Oh gosh. Trying to think of the actor, the main actor.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, there you go. Yeah, he was in it, and I thought he did a great job. And yeah, it is sort of shocking that that lady didn't really go much further with her career. She ended up marrying like a baseball player or something, right? Is that what you told me?
Matt Williams, he used to play with the San Francisco Giants. I don't know if they're still married, but at one point she was in fact married to him. So she certainly didn't live in squalor. Being married to Matt Williams. Here's the thing: do you remember the last time you seen the movie?
No, it's been eons.
You have it, and it's in cellophane, right?
I don't own it. That's one I do
I
not
could
own.
have sworn I got it for you one time and sent it to you.
I don't think so. I'll go back and check, but I'm pretty positive I don't have that one.
No, I think I did, but anyway. So here's the thing, and this is what I mean about the it factor, right? She's an incredibly beautiful woman. Do you remember her best friend?
Demi Moore.
There you go.
Yes.
A lot of people don't even remember Demi Moore was even in that movie, and I think that speaks volumes to how breathtaking Michelle Johnson was in that movie.
I had forgotten that Demi Moore was in it until you asked me that question. It's like, yeah, of course, Demi Moore, but I had forgotten.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So Michelle Johnson would be my first choice of somebody who should have been more successful in the 80s and shockingly wasn't.
Good pick, man. Good pick. I am going to go the music route, and I am going to call out a one-hit wonder that I thought should have done way, way better than he did, Nick Kershaw. And great song that he had, Wouldn't It Be Good? I bought his CD just for that song, and listen to the rest of the CD, it's actually all very good. And it just shocks me that he didn't go further with his career than what he did. I was reading a little bit about him, and it sounds like he sort of got sick of the music industry and the whole image thing as well. He said that he like bought a Porsche and stuff to fit the image of what he was supposed to fit, and he hated it. He absolutely hated it. So I
You
think
hated his Porsche.
well, he hated the image, and he
It
actually
was
did.
a
He said
joke.
he did say that he hated the Porsche.
Wow.
He hated the fact that it wasn't something that was him, but it was sort of representative of the image that it was supposed to portray. So anyway, I guess he's much happier not being in the limelight.
Really? So he doesn't record? Do you know if he records or does anything? A lot of
That
those
I don't
people seem
know. I want to say that he still wrote, but it was a little while ago that I read this article.
okay. Well, cool. Well, since you did music, I'm gonna go ahead and do music as well. And again, people, receive certain levels of success and everything. One of the people I thought should have been much, much bigger in the '80s um, is guitarist from Loudness, Akira Takasaki. And I think back, we talk about Randy Rhoads as we should, Eddie Van Halen, George Lynch is another one that gets a lot of recognition for his work in the '80s, but you never really hear about Akira Takasaki. And I remember reading, in their heyday in the '80s, I forgot who the reviewer was and I forgot the magazine, but he basically said, "Oh, Akira Takasaki sounds like Eddie Van Halen here, and he sounds like Richie Blackmore here, and he sounds like Michael Schenker here." And it just, basically made it sound like his playing was just a rip off of all of his influences. And kind of looking back on it with that, 2020 hindsight, I can't help but feel like, maybe that was a little bit of a racist thing, where we kind of, back in the '80s, especially viewed Japan as taking things that were popular, and then just kind of making their own versions of them, especially like the video game industry, that kind of stuff. And it just seemed really unfair to me to describe him like that because he's an amazing, amazing talent. I made the language barrier was an issue. I know that for a while they decided, okay, we're going to replace our singer with an American singer so he could communicate better with the audience and, understands the English language better. And it really never worked. But
Hmm.
it bothers me that in this day and age, with the reflections, we really never seem to give him any credit for what an amazing, amazing talent he was, or and still is. I saw them a few years back at the Whiskey a Go Go, and I'm gonna tell you, you know how sometimes your ears pop, and then all of a sudden it's clear. My ears popped, and I was like regretting it immediately because they were so loud, especially Akira for the Whiskey a Go Go, and it was, I was like going up to them, going, "Anyone selling like earplugs or anything?" And kind of doing this, not because I didn't enjoy it, but it was just so loud. But my God, what a talent! I saw him in concert numerous times. I saw him in the '80s, I saw him in the '90s, 2000s, 2010s. Even in 2020. Well, not 2020s yet, but just always an amazing guitar player and just no recognition whatsoever in these days, which is really sad.
I was never a huge Loudness fan. For whatever reason, I just never really got into him or never even really gave him a chance, to be honest. So I have listened to some of their stuff, more recently, and they were a really good band. I had no idea that they actually tried to replace their singer with somebody that was American. That's interesting and in itself a bit sad.
Yeah, and I think it only lasted like two or three albums, if I'm not mistaken. It was Mike. I'm probably gonna butcher the last name. It was Sarah from a band called Obsession. Um, and I gotta be honest, I don't know what it is, but I actually preferred them when they sung in Japanese. I have the Japanese versions of some of their albums, and I preferred it in Japanese, to be honest. It never worked, and then I think by the time they kind of reconnected and got the original singer back into the group, It was kind of now we're into the 90s, and that kind of music was no longer really, seen as, what was that?
Me being sad.
Oh, their type of music was no longer popular, especially, in the US. So, it's a shame, but again, huge, huge talent.
Good call out, man. Let's see. I'm going to continue with the thread of music here. I am going to go to a band that I didn't know about them until the 90s. You and Lorenz introduced me to them in the 90s. They featured a song in a movie called The Cutting Edge, but they were around in the 80s, and their music was a little different. It was more poppier in the 80s, but still a phenomenal band. Don't know why they never made it larger than they did. And I'm talking about, of course, Dan Reed Network. And if folks haven't listened to them and you guys like 80s, definitely give them a try. Give them a try. Really, really talented band. Again, they in the beginning they were more poppy, more dance. Um, and in the 90s, I'm trying to think of the name of the album, The Heat.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, when they came out with The Heat, that had a bit more of an edge to it, and it's probably one of my favorite albums of theirs. Uh, Super, super band. Give them a listen.
Yeah, really talented. And the thing, I can't say I know their work from the 80s. I kind of knew them from the Heat, but one of those bands that played just a multitude of styles, and yet it all worked. Everything that they did sounded really good. Some of it, I mean, you can tell there's a little bit of Prince influence on some of the music, but some of it was hard rock, and it ran the gamut of different styles, and everything sounded good. So great, great call. Um, all right, so since you're going with music, I'm gonna kind of change it up here. This movie came out in 1983. It was successful, but it's one of those things I don't think it was as successful as it should have been. And I'm talking about the Rodney Dangerfield classic, Easy Money. Yes, we all know, Back to School, and that's a great movie as well. But people don't recognize, Easy Money. And in my opinion, that's probably better than Back to School, probably because the humor was more accurate to Rodney Dangerfield. He even said that the character of Monty Capuletti was probably the closest to his real persona. For those that don't know about Easy Money, the idea behind it was Rodney had to, I think he had like 30 days, 90 days, whatever. And he had to quit smoking, drinking, gambling. He had to lose weight, all the things that he loved in life, right? And to inherit this money. That's why it was called Easy Money. And, of course, hilarity ensues. His best friend was a little known actor who went on to much bigger things, and that was Joe Pesci. So that's his best friend in the movie. Jennifer Jason Leigh from Fast Times at Ridgemont High is his daughter in the movie, and it's hysterical. So if you haven't seen it, or you haven't seen it in a while, give it a chance, or check it out again. I think it's up there, and why we don't talk about more, I don't know. But Rodney Dangerfield's Easy Money is just a riot.
I've never seen that one. I've never seen that one, and I think I've heard of it, but I will have to go and check it out. He was awesome, man. Rodney was amazing.
This movie was, like I said, definitely more inappropriate than Back to School. But for that reason, I think it's actually funnier than Back to School. But again, it's one of those movies. It did well, but just for whatever reason, didn't have the staying power of Back to School, and you never hear about it.
Hmm. Good one, man. I'll have to take a look at that one. Let's see. I am going to go with The Clapper, which came out, I think, in 1984. It was actually invented by somebody in San Francisco. and was absolutely ahead of its time. And it was like the primitive Alexa, other than you would clap and it would turn lights on, you'd clap again and it would turn lights off. I don't know why everybody didn't have one of those in their household. And
Did
yeah, I was
you?
just I don't know why that one came into my head. And no, I actually didn't have one. And I don't know why that came into my head, but it came into my head this afternoon. It's like, yeah, that was done in the 80s. So the clapper.
So you felt the clapper should have taken over the world, huh?
Everybody should have had one, man. Everybody should
Clap
have had the
on,
clapper.
clap off. I remember those commercials. I was just like, oh my, I remember seeing those commercials. I'm like, my God, how lazy are we getting that we have to clap, turn on our lights on and off? And it was a precursor to what we are now, where it's just like, hey, tell this thing to play that, dim this light, open this door, start my car. You know,
Exactly.
it's crazy, but interesting, real interesting. Um, I guess I did an actress, so out of fairness, I think we have to include an actor. I was originally going to go with a different person, but I thought about it. William Zabka, who of course is best known as Johnny Lawrence from the Karate Kid movies. Kind of had a career resurgence lately through Cobra Kai and everything, but he, for whatever reason, he just never really reached the heights I thought he should have in the 80s. I think he's a really good actor. He does the comedy. You see what he does in Cobra Kai, so he can do the comedy very well. But was never really reached the heights he should have. And I think the Karate Kid kind of painted him in the corner as a villain, because he was a villain in just one of the guys later on in '85, the next year, and then 1986 he was a villain again and Back to School, which we just talked about. Um, so I think he was kind of typecast for whatever reason as that villain, and he just could never break out of it. And it almost became this thing, like it almost became that type, right? You saw the blonde-haired guy that was kind of an a-hole, and James Spader later on came and started portraying it so well, and Pretty in Pink, and it kind of became, every movie had that blonde pretty boy that was the a-hole in all the 80s movies. But William Zabka, I think, could have been so much bigger had he been given the opportunity to really show his range and show that he was much more than the bad guy in the Karate Kid.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. Definitely somebody that seems like he was typecast, and yeah, you definitely see the different dimensions that he's got in the Cobra Kai series for sure.
Plus, on top of it, he's a super cool guy.
Yeah, you met him, right?
I did meet him years ago. We were at I forget, Street Food Cinema Eat See Here. This was before the Cobra Kai series, and him and Martin Cove, who plays Kreese in the Karate Kid movies, were there for a screening of the Karate Kid, and they were taking pictures with fans. You made a donation that was going to charity, and it was really funny because me, my son, and Martin Cove were all standing there like trying to look all tough and everything, and he's all smiling and everything. He looks at us, he goes, "Oh," he goes, "we're supposed to be looking badass. Sorry." And then he puts his fist up and looks all tough too. I said, "Well, that's Cobra Kai. Come on, guy, get with this." And but real nice guy. Hit him up about some questions I had about the Karate Kid. He was more than willing to answer everything I asked him, and just a super dude. So
Really cool. That's always awesome when you meet somebody like that and they're nice, right? It can leave a real sour taste in your mouth if they're not.
hashtag Ingve.
Like Ingve. Let's see. I am going to go with a movie this time, and I think people look back on it fondly. I don't remember it being a huge thing back then, but it was in my opinion, one of Bill Murray's absolute awesome movies, and very seasonal. Talking about Scrooged. And again, I think it's got a bit of a cult following now, at least in my mind it does. I don't remember it doing so well back then, but I thought it was great. And I always look forward to seeing it every Christmas season.
I agree. That's one of my favorite movies in Christmas. And I think with the Christmas season, we'll probably talk about it more in depth. So I don't want to get too much into it tonight, but great call. I love Bill Murray in that movie. One of my favorites. I always, for whatever reason, I always gravitated towards the whole, the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, and I watched a lot of different versions of it growing up. So I was super stoked when I heard he was doing that, and he certainly did it justice. But we'll say that for another time. We'll talk about it much more in depth because Bill deserves that.
Sounds
Um,
good.
I got my last one here, and this one, um, I was trying to think of who, you mentioned Dan Reed Network and Nick Kershaw. A band that I thought should have been really big in the 80s and just through whatever reason never achieved any real success like they should have is the band Hitman. So they had a demo out that was incredibly well received. And for whatever reason, I think they were like looking to sign with a major label. It's one of those things that they were going to, they think that's going to happen, it falls apart. And then finally, by the time they get their album out on, I want to say it was on Roadrunner, their debut album doesn't come out till 1988.
Oh,
And so they kind of missed the boat on it. And then their second album, same thing, bunch of problems. Their follow up doesn't come out till 1993. So it was almost like they were Boston. But man, check out the band Hitman if you like Jeff Tate, Queensryche, that kind of band, that kind of voice. Hitman's a fantastic group. Should have gone on to much bigger heights. I think they could have potentially been just as big as Queensryche. I think their songwriting, at least on their debut, was a little simpler, but I think it was also a little bit more catchy than what Queensryche does. And Dirk Kennedy, one of my all-time favorite singers, just a really good band. They were trying to do the Image. A lot of bands weren't doing Image. They were kind of, presenting a stage show, kind of based, on like a futuristic appearance. They wrote a song about rollerball. I mean, come on, how much cooler does it get than to write a song about the James Caan movie Rollerball? But great band, and even their single "Will You Be There" was a ballad that could have easily gone up the charts with anything else you heard on the radio at that time. Just a shame it never worked out, and sometimes the really talented bands and really talented people don't get the recognition they deserve, and they're still going today. And this is how crazy I am about that band. Years ago, I think it was like 2019 maybe. I found out that they were going to be playing a show in Greece. No, I didn't fly to Greece. But before they performed in Greece, they actually did a warm-up show in Brooklyn, New York. I had never been to New York in my life. I went to the Judas Priest Firepower concert, drove back to Van Nuys for the flyaway bus, slept in my car in the parking lot, got up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, got on the flyaway bus, flew to New York, my first time ever in New York, just so I could see Hitman. Because I figured, okay, this might be the only chance in my life to ever see this band, and I am not going to miss it. So that's how much of an impact their music made on me. They're still around. Hopefully they start touring a little bit more consistently. I would love to see them out in California, but great band, and they should have been much more successful.
you actually got a chance to talk to them while you're out there, right?
Yeah, I met I think pretty much the whole band. I talked to both guitar players, talked to the bassist for a little bit, and I talked to the singer Dirk for a little bit. It was funny because my buddy Steve in Greece went up and like showed him a picture of showed Dirk Kennedy the picture of me and him together, of me and Dirk together, and he goes, "Oh, I remember that dude. You know him?" or something like that. So super cool guy. They all were really nice, but there's not a lot of people that I would fly across the country to see, and under less than great conditions, and I did it for them.
Did you tell them that you actually flew out from California to see them?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What did they say?
They were just kind of in shock that somebody did that to see them. Yeah, it's funny because Dirk was like, we saw the photo that Steve showed me. He goes, he's not here too, is he? And it's like, no, he's not, but I'm here for him, so he's here in spirit. um, just an amazing band, and like I said, it was really cool. Got to finally go to New York, and what was crazy is I think after never being in New York my entire life, I think I went a month later, took my son, and we went to New York a second time, and enjoyed New York. But yeah, great.
Nice. Great story, man. Very, very cool. My last one, what am I gonna go with? I'm gonna go with the Velcro shoes. And I don't know why those things don't still exist. When they were, back in the day popular, I thought they were awesome. It's like, wow, I don't have to tie my shoes anymore. I just do this, zip, zip, and I'm done. I loved it. I mean, the shoes looked a little dorky. I'll have to admit that. And there's probably something that they can do with the styling if they wanted to sort of update it. I thought the concept was great, man. It's just, you don't have to worry about it untying. You know what what an issue I have with my shoes always getting untied. Just slap the Velcro on there and you're off and running. I thought it was awesome.
Were you off and running?
Back then, I actually was.
Oh, all right. I
Not
remember
really.
when Jake was young. We actually used to buy him the Velcro shoes as well.
Oh,
He was
really?
young, so I just think you just need a smaller foot. So I think they still exist. And don't they even have now those shoes that tie themselves? The self-tying laces?
My dog's imitation. I have not seen that. No.
Yeah, I think they even have that now. It might have even been on the Back to the Future shoes that you can buy, and it's crazy expensive. But I think they have self-tying shoes now.
What are they like attached to motors or stuff? How does it work?
I don't know. You look it up. You do your own research. What am I, Google?
Well, you knew about them. I figure you might know something about the mechanics about them, but
I read headlines, and that's like, now I become one of those millennials with the short attention span. Oh, there's a headline. Of course it has. I've never gonna delve into it further. It's like mildly interesting because I can tie my own shoes, unlike some people. Uh, you know what? Since we have a little bit of time left, I just got to throw this out there, because there's one more person I wanted to mention, and I didn't mention because I already had an actress, but Amanda Peterson, who sadly died at a very early age. I think she died at like 43. She was the actress in Can't Buy Me Love, and I think she was really young in that movie too. And if you've ever seen that movie, great movie, by the way, a really cute romantic comedy. Um, but she was so good in that, and she showed all these different emotions. And she was another one that I was just incredibly surprised that she didn't go on to bigger and better things after that movie. Whether it was issues, I think she had some substance abuse issues. I don't know if that was then or happened later in her life. But what an amazing talent. And you watch her in that movie, and her facial expressions, she doesn't have to say a word, but all her facial expressions speak volumes for her. So I thought she was amazing. And somebody else that I was sad that such an early demise, and sad because her talent was never really recognized. She should have gone on to much bigger things after that. It didn't happen for her for whatever reason, but what a talent.
yeah, she was a really great actress, or actor, I guess, as they say now. But great movie, great movie. I love that movie as well. Very, very cute, and not typically the kind of flick that I'm into, but it was nice. It was really
Oh,
cool, and I would definitely recommend it.
you're a big softy, you know it.
I certainly won't admit it here.
All right, cool. Anything you want to add before we call this a night?
I'm gonna throw an extra one in there as well. Bosom Buddies, and we've talked about that before. Of course, it produced Tom Hanks, which is an amazing actor. Again, I don't think it got its fair shake when it was popular back in the day. So they did like what, 2 seasons was it?
Only 2 seasons, yeah. So
Yeah. So, and we've talked about this before. Especially towards the end, it started getting deeper and sort of multi-dimensional with what they would talk about, and I thought it was great. I thought it was great.
yeah, it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So that's a great call out. It's one of those ones where it's like I would have loved to seen where they went with these characters, and sadly felt kind of deprived that we never got to see that. But yeah, it happens. There's a lot of great TV shows that get canceled before it's time, and sadly, that's one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you guys as always for watching. We hope you enjoyed yourselves. If there's something you feel we missed, please leave us a comment. Ant's probably got some sort of comment on there. He's like, "Why didn't you call out this person?" Or you call. Good. That's what we want to hear. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. As always, we'll be back with you next week for another topic about something 80s. As always, we appreciate you guys. And Lewis, take us out, brother.
Peace out.
Thank you, guys.